It's a cold morning, you know, it's middle of September already, and I tell you what, this is one of my favorite times of the year. I mean, it's just nobody out here. There was one other vehicle at the boat ramp here this morning, and you know, it's some of the best fishing of the year, and you hardly see anybody out there. I mean, there's too many things to do. Kids are back in school, people are out hunting, and this is the time of year where you can come out on a lot of lakes and just experience some really good quality fishing. And so we're up on Rainy Lake, which is just a beautiful lake, and it's a lake that I haven't spent a lot of time on, but it's definitely an intriguing lake. It's a fishery, a premier walleye fishery. It's really driven on a smelt forage base, and so there's a lot of cool fall patterns that happen every year where you can catch some quality fish. You know, late summer to fall, even into the middle of fall, has kind of become one of my favorite times to fish up here. It's the lack of fishing pressure. Fish are starting to feed pretty heavy going into fall. And then all the way through fall. The fish are as fat as they're going to be, you know, all season. So that's some of the reasons I love fall fishing here on Rainy Lake. There's a fish. All right. Hooked up. Hooked up. Nice. Starting to mark some fish through here too. Just kind of the nice thing about what we're doing here right now, pulling these crankbaits, we can cover some water. Sometimes it's easier to find them. Yeah. Well, that's golden. That is golden. I'm gonna set that right there for you. All right, thank you. Yes, sir. Get this fish out of the net here. Yeah, just a... That is cool. I just love the build on these fish. The color, these are some nice looking walleyes. Beautiful. Look at that. And you gotta, every once in a while when you're fishing, you know, you're catching fish, you got to stop and look around too. You know, just such a beautiful place. This is a cool fishing experience up here, Rainy Lake. I'll show you what we're doing here. We're basically just trolling, and we're trolling deep in the sense that, you know, these fish on this lake they're keying on these rainbow smelt, and so these fish that eat smelt, they move around a lot, you know, and so we're basically just running up and down these deep breaks in 25 to 30 feet of water, and we're running a big bait, basically a big bait that imitates a smelt. So this is a Northland Rumble B, just a great fall bait, because the other thing you got to remember is in the fall, you know, this forage just keeps getting bigger and bigger through the summer, so by the time you get in the fall, these fish are used to keying in on a bigger bait. So that's a rule of thumb in the fall, is go bigger on the profile. So this is a phenomenal fall bait. It's also a phenomenal bait like after dark, whenever you need a bigger profile. But what we're doing, just so we can run these baits a little bit closer to the boat and creep up into some of these rocks. As you look around, I mean, there's all kinds of rock. Just running a 2-ounce bottom bouncer. And so it's a pretty easy trolling system. You could also use snap weights, but this bottom bouncer just makes it easy. You don't have to worry about the fish spooking from the bottom bouncer. Just put a 6 to 7 foot snell, put on your bait, and you basically just drop it back, run it along the bottom and go. So it's really easy fishing. It's something that anybody can do, but don't overthink it. It's also really effective. It's just a great way to cover water and find fish, especially when these fish are off these deep contours. Throw it out there and do her again. Oh, I know, we're going over a lot of fish now. And maybe the thing to point out is the first 2 spots we went to, we never marked a fish. Nice. And so this is a great way to just stay fluid, just stay moving. Cover water until you find them. And then once you find them, obviously, it's a great way to put baits in front of fish. So one of the patterns we're trying to take advantage of here is the fact that there are smelt in Rainy Lake. Smelt are oily bait fish that grow relatively quickly. Big walleyes love them, small walleyes love them. And what we're trying to imitate, trolling, is a smelt pattern. You know, there's a lot of good colors that will imitate smelt. You know, and we're pulling these 2 to 2.5 miles an hour. There's really no bait too big for these walleyes to eat in this system. That's pretty representative of the hatch that we're trying to match.
Boys, I'm hooked up here. Feels like a pretty good fish. Jason, you want to grab the net? I can't even move it.
Yeah, I'm coming, I'm coming.
Head shakes, look at those head shakes.
Oh yeah, nice walleye, nice walleye.
Nice and golden.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, that's gonna be a decent walleye there.
Oh yeah, that's a gorgeous
Is
walleye.
that a scoop?
Oh yeah, look at that. Oh,
Chunker.
God, look how thick these fish
Yeah,
are.
she's been eating.
Footballs.
It is football season.
I was just thinking that, it is. Nice work there, bud.
Yes, sir.
That is cool. I think we found them. Hopefully. I shouldn't have said nothing. That might jinx us.
That's right. That's right.
I'm really, really superstitious when it comes to fishing. Face full of Rumble B.
Well, she got a face full. And what's crazy there is, pliers, yep. We were just drifting. Literally I was just holding this bottom bouncer off the bottom so I could feel that bait rattle. And that fish just crushed it.
Yeah, I like these baits because you can kind of feel them too. You can feel that vibration. Yeah, look at that. That's just beautiful. Well, nice work.
Yeah, let's put her home.
I think we found some fish.
Don't tell your friends. There she goes. Cool.
Oh, get ready.
So all the fish we've been catching have been just on the wind-blown side of this.
Yep.
So maybe there'll be a bigger one sitting on top or behind it. You know, maybe something a little different to trigger, see if we can't pop a bigger fish. But we ain't made her 30 yards into the trench without
I know. Once we
floating
found them,
over,
we
so,
found them.
Yeah, coming over the top. Here we go.
It's kind of impressive how many fish you mark in some of these spots and how much bait fish there is. These fish have so much to eat.
It's a smorgasbord. There is that.
There she comes.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
A little bit closer and I'll be able to give them the scoop. Got them on the Wonder
All
Bread.
right. Nice.
Yes, sir.
There we go. There. We were catching some fish today, you know. This is fun. We're not going very far. I mean, it took us a little while to figure it out and find them, figure out some of the best colors, but boy, once we got things a little dialed in here, this has been fun.
Been real steady.
Yeah, I mean, we don't go very far without catching a fish. That's good living. But yeah, look at that. That's just a beautiful, chunky walleye. There she goes. Now, one thing that makes Rainy Lake somewhat unique compared to a lot of other lakes that are in northern Minnesota is that there's a rainbow smelt forage base in this lake. And so when you look at midsummer into the fall, you know, a lot of these rainbow smelt, they're going to be deeper, you know, say anywhere from 35 to 65 feet of water. They're a cool water pelagic bait fish. And basically what happens, these walleyes slide out and they eat these bait fish. And so smelt are excellent forage base. These fish get big on Rainy Lake eating smelt, but also it really dictates how and where you fish, in the sense that a lot of times you're looking at deep contours, you're looking at sharp breaking structure next to that deep water where there's a little bit of a step or a little bit of a ledge where these fish can go up and rest when they're not chasing these smelt around over open water. And so a lot of times you're hitting that primary structure. Maybe, you know, it could be a fine-tuned approach where you're using, say, a glide bait or a jig and you're fishing a deep point, for example. But if these contours get big, if these contours get big where these fish are spread out over big areas, you can't beat trolling deep crankbaits. So there's a lot of different ways you can pull a crankbait in deep water. You could long line a reef runner or a tail dancer and get down 25, 30 feet of water. You can run lead core, you could run snap waves. But what we found is just running these big Rumble Bs, just, you know, 6-7 feet behind a bottom bouncer, a 2-ounce bottom bouncer, that worked great. The reason being is that a lot of times when you're following these contours, there's a lot of ins and outs. You're turning the boat all the time. These contours don't go in a straight line.
It's got a pretty good bend. Got me way over sideways. Am I over the top of you already?
You're okay. I'm gonna put mine on the other side here.
Okay. A good shake. Staying down. It's the right kind.
They are adding up, you know what?
Well, I tell you what, if we were trying to have a fish fry, a box full of them would be all right. So if you do plan on coming up to Rainy Lake on your own and doing a little exploring and stuff, please make sure you look into the different rules and regulations. Ontario and Minnesota, they both have different requirements for what is required in your boat. The size restrictions and the limits are different on the Minnesota side and the Ontario side. So do a little research before you come up here. Make sure you know the law before you get out here on the water. So one of the biggest differences on Rainy Lake is you can transport no biologic bait across an international border. So if you want to use live bait, you have to buy it in Canada, then you can use it on Rainy Lake. If you're gonna fish the Minnesota side, you have to buy your live bait on the Minnesota side. So it's a pretty easy rule to remember. No live bait can cross an international border.
Yep. Got him?
Yep, that's it.
All right.
That's a heavier fish. Still got 75. It is quite a bit heavier fish, Jason.
All right, I'm coming. I'm gonna get reeled up and out of your way.
Okay, kind of nice we can just drift with the wind here. We should drift relatively straight. 35, staying down nice.
Oh yeah.
There we go. Oh, meaty.
That is a nice walleye. Good stuff. Nice.
Yeah, that's a healthy specimen for sure.
Yeah, just a great way to catch fish.
Boy, it's been real consistent all day long. There she goes. Kicked off strong.
You know, I think trolling gets overlooked in Minnesota a lot because it's a one-line state, in the sense that when you go to areas or regions where you can use 2 or 3 lines, trolling is a lot more common. I mean, it's something that a lot of people are doing to catch walleyes. But just because you can only use 1 line doesn't mean that trolling's not effective. In fact, trolling can be deadly effective. Whenever the spots are big and whenever the fish are just spread out from here to there, put the trolling rods out and go, because it's all about covering water. You can still cover water holding onto a rod or using 1 rod. You don't have to necessarily use 2 or 3 rods to catch a lot of fish trolling. And I think a lot of Minnesota anglers overlook that, in the sense that when you need to cover water, put the crankbaits out and go, and you're gonna be able to catch a lot of fish.
Oh, there we go.
Got him?
Yep. Yep. I'm just gonna walk up here to the front.
That strike was violent.
Yeah, it was. Kind of hurt my armpit a little.
All right. Feel like a good one?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit heavier than the last couple.
All right.
It's fighting, you know, walleyes, they fight down. Pike and bass, they like to go sideways. Walleyes, they just dig, you know. So typically, if it's staying down like that, that's I consider that to be a good sign.
Yep. I'm gonna get the net here.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna step out. About 15 feet to go.
Okay. Should be able to see it here soon.
Yep, it's really staying vertical.
Oh yeah, nice walleye. Oh no,
Little stretch.
There we go. That's a beautiful fish. There you go.
Thank you, sir. Mm-hmm. She did it herself. Whew. Squirrely. This one's squirrely. So the one weather factor I probably pay the most attention to is wind direction, followed by wind speed. Fish on Rainy Lake seem to be extremely wind driven, more so than other places I've fished. So one of the phrases I use a lot is if you're out of the wind, you're out of the fish. Fish piles up microorganisms, bait fish, and as a result, predator fish follow those bait fish. So make sure you're always at least in the wind. If not directly, you're maybe into a slip wind where wind is slipping by an edge that you can fish. Really pay attention to the wind and wind shifts. Second day, third day of the same wind, up here anyway, you're gonna have pretty phenomenal fishing. So it can be tough right when a wind shifts and wind changes. Make sure you're making those adjustments throughout the day. Try to stay in the fish.
Yeah, that's amazing. Usually you see that and you think, oh, it's got to be whitefish. Well, I think we've caught enough to know that those are walleyes.
Yeah. Right on the edge there, just stacked up.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's a big head
that's a
shake
good
there.
fish here. Boy, this is something. Oh, come here. Yeah, that feels like a good one. Come on up, show yourself. I'm up to 50 feet.
50 feet out yet?
I should be able to see it. Oh yeah, that's a nice walleye. That's a nice walleye. I just think it's so cool how these fish just love these bigger baits right now.
Yeah, they're absolutely pounding them. I'm gonna stretch out there. Yes, sir.
There we go. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gorgeous fish. That fish hit it as soon as I engaged the reel. I'm gonna get these hooks out of her. One hazard using these big baits, they've got 3 treble hooks on them. And so there's a lot of hooks flying when these fish flop. And they're sharp hooks. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, huh? These are just gorgeous fish. You know, whenever you get a big body of water like Rainy Lake, you know, you definitely have to break it down in quadrants in the sense that there's probably some fish all over, but you're just trying to find where there's more fish. And so when these fish are deep, you know, don't be afraid to just focus on the wind-blown areas, the wind-blown locations, and use your electronics. If you go through an area, you know, say 3, 4, 5 miles an hour, and if you're not marking any fish, just keep on going. Don't stop and spend a lot of time fishing until you see a lot of fish on your electronics. But by and large, you can't go wrong by just eliminating half the lake that's out of the wind, in the sense that if you focus on the wind, usually those are going to be your better areas on Rainy Lake. That was a strike.
Is that Wonder Bread still?
Yeah. You know, I think that's something too, is on these smelt fisheries, you cannot go wrong with a lure that's got a lot of white on it most days.
Yep.
That fish
Gonna
hit
keep
it
us
hard.
straight here.
Yeah. She's starting to come up.
Yep. Net?
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Should be able to see it soon. I'm at 23 feet. Here she comes.
Well, she's dogging you down a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice fish.
Yeah. Nice walleye.
That's nice golden loins.
Just a face full of crank.
Face full of hooks.
There we go. Goodness. And the beauty of this is, you know, you get fish in 25, 30 feet of water. If they're there, you're gonna see them. I mean, there's no doubt in your mind. And so that's the thing to maybe stress, is that we went through some spots where we didn't mark fish. We didn't stick around, kept moving around, followed the wind. And there's a lot of wind blowing up on this shoreline. There's a lot of fish stacked up along the shoreline. This is just good fishing. All right, we'll get her in the water. Here she goes.